today we're going to be talking about making lids. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to make a jar to make lids for. We're going to talk about making the flange for the jar. So what we're going to do is we have a nice flat rim here. Are we in shot? Yes, we are. Barely. Get wooden knife tool, the end that you never use, a little curved end of this. And we're going to take it with the curved side facing down so it flips up on the end. We're going to make sure that the very top edge of the pot is nice and clean and doesn't have any goop on it, but is very damp and perfectly in center, or as close as you can get it. Okay, and then we're going to put it and divide that in half and apply gentle down pressure while supporting with your other hand to create a flange. You can also do this with your fingernail. I have always just done it with a tool. And you can wet that a little bit and use your finger to refine that. You might want to compress that little rim just a little bit so it's nice and strong. And then you want to have a deep enough lip for the lid to be able to oil, so you might want to bring it down just a hair more. Mine wasn't completely on center, so it's a little wonky, but it'll do. Just a hair off, not bad. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make a lid, a flat thrown lid for this jar with the flange that we just made. So I have taken this, my lovely Lid Master, I think it's called, and measured the size of my lid. Can you see that? Measured the size of the lid. I know that it fits. And that is how big my lid needs to be. So what I'm going to do is I have solid clay, and I'm going to center this just like normal. And this is the easiest way to make a lid. Okay. And now we're going to look at it. We're going to go a little bit out from the middle, about right there. See that mark? We're going to press down and center down and flatten out this portion of clay here. And that center part will be the lid, the handle. And we can take the pinky and go up underneath it to help form a nice little knob. Or you can just center a flat piece of clay and then you can attach your own knob, like I don't know, if you're making a dog treat bowl, you can make a little dog bone and attach it to the top of your handle. Okay, so we're going to flatten it out. Now I'm not paying attention to how big this is currently, I'm just paying attention to the thickness and how thick it needs to be. And then I'm going to measure it. Okay, so I would go ahead and normally cut off all this excess, which I will go ahead and bring it down some. I'm just going to take off this excess. Because I am really bad about judging how much clay I need for a particular lid. So we just guesstimate around here. That's what I do. I'm not really particularly good. Especially with this, there's no reason to like have some particular kind of formula about how much clay you need for it. You can just cut off the excess and re-wedge it up. Okay. And you can add like some reverse spiral or something if you want to. Make sure that it's well compressed though, because it will crack if it's not. Go ahead and measure it again. Now I'm going to make it slightly bigger because I'm going to show you a little trick to make a domed lid like this. So if you want to make a domed lid, you're going to make it slightly bigger than what you really need. Okay. So, plus this helps if you don't have a Lid Master to measure everything. You can just make a lid that is slightly bigger than what you think. You can can also just use like a tool, lay it across the top of your piece, let your finger, and then come back and go, oh yeah, that's good enough. Okay, so we are now back after a few hours to let our pieces dry and get leather hard. Now our lid, we don't want to actually get too hard, and I'm going to take a little bit of water on my finger and just kind of smooth it again with my finger, and also wetting the surface a little bit. That's going to help aid in the stretching of this, especially right around the knob. Because if it is too dry, when we go to stretch this and make it domed, it'll crack. We don't want that. So I'm going to trim up this rim just a bit. And go ahead and remeasure. Make sure that this is the perfect size right before I cut it off. So it's just slightly too big, which is what I want for what I'm going to be doing. We'll go ahead and cut it off. Spin our wheel when we cut it off, because if you don't, the wire will tend to bow up in the center and cause a thin spot in the middle. Now it wouldn't matter so much with the lid because you got a little bit extra thickness right in the center due to the handle, but in general, it's a little better. So, cut our lid off and take off that extra clay. Give it a good wipe down. Towel it dry so our pot doesn't stick. So I have our jar that we made earlier, and I have cut it off the wheel. And now if you want to try to put this on, it's going to be a bit too big. See, it's a little bit too big. That's what we want for right now. We're going to go ahead and turn it upside down in our jar. I'm going to apply gentle pressure to the center, working my way around it. And you can center this and use your wheel and spin it and press it down, but I tend to just use my finger, or you can use the end of the tool, like the end of your Big Bertha type tool. Use the end and kind of press it down in it if you don't want to use your fingers. Smooth. Just stroking that down in there. Okay. So my goal is I'm pressing it, trying to press it down enough where I'm shrinking it up this way where it'll fit. Make sure it's centered as you do this. Okay, so we are about there. Here more. I'm trying to make sure you're even all the way around. Okay, so now I have that. We can flip it out. Now I did get ever so slight cracking right around that knob like I thought, but I can just smooth that back out with my finger. No problem. And then you might have to finagle a little bit to get it to fit perfectly, but you may have to re-wet this section a little bit so it has a little bit of stretchability. Go ahead and flip it back over and go just a hair more. And you can use a damp sponge like this, but the sponge tends to pull up grit. So I really like these Cheryl, Cheryl mud tools. And this is one of their sponges that is like a finishing sponge, and it's white. It's actually quite hard if it's dry, but you get it nice and damp. And it does not pull up the grit in the same way that your normal sponge will do. Sometimes once you get it to fit on nicely, you want to leave it on to dry, because this lid will try to go flat again if you let it dry off the pot. Let it dry on the pot. You should have a perfect fit.